the problems that you know are worth 10 times more than the problems that you don't. And every other business and every other piece of real estate that you're trying to do has problems. There's no way that's easier than doing what you're doing today.
Today we have my good friend, Brian Luebben. Now, Brian owns the Action Academy.
Now we do almost $2 million a year recurring with a 40% profit margin. And now we're aiming for $5 million top line, $2 million EBITDA in 2025. That's the goal. And I pay $400,000 in payroll. So that's where we're at today.
We are going to dive into the Action Academy, how he scaled it, and then what people are teaching inside the Action Academy. If you're listening to this and you want to lose your job and start traveling to Dubai and living in Colombia, we're going to teach you how to do that today.
Welcome to the Zeroed In Podcast. I'm your host, John Lallande, a seasoned real estate investment expert and former Marine recon sniper. This podcast is designed for those seeking effective strategies to increase revenue growth through strategic hiring, leadership, and effective tracking. Our focus here is clear and direct. We provide actionable insights from successful founders and growth experts. Whether you're establishing a new business or aiming to scale an existing one, our episodes offer the essential advice you need for practical business growth. Lock and load, zero in, and get ready to scale.
Welcome to the Zeroed In Podcast. Today we have my good friend, Brian Luebben. Now, Brian owns the Action Academy. And if you guys, he's going to dive all into it, but give you a little spoiler. So Brian takes people that are making pretty good money in their W-2s, like six-figure earners, no losers there. He takes the good ones, and then he teaches them how to replace their income by buying small businesses and commercial real estate. So today, if he lets us, we are going to dive into the Action Academy, how he scaled it, and then what people are teaching inside the Action Academy. How, if you're listening to this, you want to lose your job and start traveling to Dubai and living in Colombia, we're going to teach you how to do that today. So Brian, man, welcome to the podcast.
What's up, man? It's all just green screen and chat GPT. So it's a wild ride now. It's been a giant facade. No, dude, it's been super fun. Like, I tell everyone, if there's a theme to the show, it's saying yes to a bunch of stuff gets you to 1 million, and saying no to things is what takes you to 10 plus. So it's just like, that's kind of my MO today. And yeah, dude, that's what we do for Action Academy. We can go into wherever you want to take this backstory, how it developed, how we launched it, all the numbers today. But what we are today is we do help high performers. I like to throw the $100,000 to $600,000 around as kind of the average income that we take, solely for the purpose of just making sure that it's known that we aren't for everyone. We are for people that are high performers. So it's just a decent litmus test. We have people, it's not a hard and fast rule. You know, we have people that are in that maybe make 80 or 90, but what we're really looking for is like the cream of the crop, just absolute gangsters that they already have what we call the action muscle, which is how fast do you go from idea to implementation without external stimulus. So you basically, long story short, you don't need somebody to tell you to do things. You just do things. So we say we have access. You need access, accountability, and massive levels of action to win in this game. We don't help you with the action part. So we say no to 50% of the people that we speak with. And now it's turned into a really cool business and my life's passion. So we can get into it.
I love it, man. And we met actually, somebody referred me to like some life coaching, you know, with Jason Dries. I met Brian through there. We ended up just staying in touch. Like, we had a lot of common friends. And then, you know, fast forward randomly, I did a podcast on his podcast. It's like, bro, there's a Rufus Day Soul concert this weekend and he flies out. So Brian, I got to spend some time in person, but walk us through, man, like when we first met, probably dude, I don't know, 4 years ago, three years ago or something like that. What were you doing back then? And how did you go from like idea to implementation with the Action Academy?
Yeah, so the long and short of it is, for people that have no idea who I am, like I was working a corporate job. I made it to number 8 out of 5,079 in the sales organization. Fortune 500, I was wearing a suit and a tie, and I had to be clean shaven every single day. So I made it.
If you guys can't see him, he's wearing a tank top now, and he's got like a scruffy beard. So like, just picture the exact opposite of what he's doing right now with like a gold chain and like a tank top. So picture
always,
that,
man. Always, man. Estoy practicando mi español too, man. So Yeah, it's been a blast. I ended up just buying some real estate, started up a side business with my podcast. That's not the business today, but that's what got me out, helped me replace $20,000 a month in quote unquote passive income. We all know that I call it cash flow rather than passive income. I think we need to move away from using really passive anywhere. So what I did was I was able to generate that, and it doesn't require my attention. So a degree of passivity. And I left that job in March of 2022, went to travel full time around the world. That's the period of time that me and you met in, which is I had just moved to Austin. We did the podcast. I think it was 23 that we did the show. And then you were like, yo, like, you want to come to Colombia? And I was like, I've been looking for a reason to go to Colombia. So I went down there. But yeah, it all started as people just asking me, how'd you do it? How'd you get out of your job? And this is like a really important piece of advice for people that want to start a business. And I hit on it a lot, so I'll hit on it very briefly here. But this is basically business 101. Like if you follow this advice, you will be most likely successful. And if you don't follow this advice, you're going to waste a lot of your time. So what most people do is they build a business out of thin air, and then they go to the audience or the customer or the market and they say, here's the business that I just spent a year and a half working on. Hope you like it. And then it's crickets because nobody asked for your shit. So instead what I did was I just did things and then I talked about them, and then people were DMing me all the time. This was before I had a following, before I had a big podcast, and people were just asking me, how are you doing this stuff? And so I was like, well, I'll just tell you how I did it. And so I did 100 free coaching calls, and I was trying to figure out, what am I doing with my life after, leaving corporate? I was out for a year and I was just like, now what? And so I started doing these coaching calls for free with no offer. And through those coaching calls, people started talking about, I own 2 houses. I'm looking to replace like $10,000 a month. I was like, ooh, okay, cool. So like, we know where you're at. We know where you're going. What are the roadblocks? And we uncovered the roadblocks over and over again as the same 4 things. It was lack of clarity. I have no idea what the hell I want or how to get there. Lack of community. I don't have people around me that are doing this or even pursuing this. Like I'm the only person I know that talks about real estate. A lack of confidence. I've never even fathomed doing like a 20 unit, let alone a 200 unit. How would I do commercial? And then lastly, a lack of capital. Like, dude, I got $50,000 in the bank account. Like I can't even buy a single family right now. How can I buy a business? Stuff like that. And so long story short, we created a course. I thought that was what people do to make the answer to this. And I emailed all the people I helped for free like 4 months later. And I said, yo, I got this thing for you, $1,500. And I made $100,000 in 48 hours while living in Brazil. And that was sick. And I said, okay, cool. Like we got what's called product market fit here. And then we asked the customers like every single week, it's freaking me. I asked the customers every single week, yo, like what parts are great? What parts need work? What parts need improvement? And they said, the material's good, but we really like the people that you threw us in the Facebook group with, because they started doing deals together. And I realized, I'm in the wrong business. So I switched the business model from a paid course with a free community to a paid community with a free course. The course became the 30-day onboarding, launched that officially in January 1st, 2023. Now we do almost $2 million a year recurring with a 40% profit margin. And now we're aiming for $5 million top line, $2 million EBITDA in 2025. That's the goal. And I pay $400,000 in payroll to a really, really team of people. So that's where we're at today.
Man, I love it. That was good Cliff Notes. What I really love that you focused on, and you're so right, man. So many people want to push their product that they think that everybody needs.
Don't even know what the problem is that they're solving.
Exactly. They're just like, this is gonna work. I'm just gonna try to sell this. I'm gonna try to sell this. But I love what you did, which you started free. Right? The whole Hormozy model, like start just giving it away for free. And what
then low ticket.
Exactly. And then what you learn from there is like what people are actually looking for and what they're struggling for. So like by the time you did your first actual course, you already knew how to solve people's problems because you had 100 fucking reps, like Correct. You had 100 reps. Now, another thing is like people are like, I don't know why anybody would want to work with me because, I don't have any value to add, or like, yeah, that's the problem.
Like they probably suck. Like exactly. if you have imposter syndrome, like there's 2 different levels of imposter syndrome. One is like, how do I say this?
Say it the way you want to say it.
Okay, so part of it is the traditional, I'm in a room full of $10 million people, $100 million people. Who am I to be here? That's like, I get that. That makes sense. We all experience that, especially in the very beginning. Like, I was just like, when I started getting around millionaires, I was like, oh my God, how do I do this, right? And then you just become desensitized to it. But the second level of imposter syndrome is, ooh, like, who am I to say anything? And you're just not good enough yet.
Yeah.
Like, you just need to put the reps in. So if you're like, oh, who am I to teach on this? Well, I'm like, okay, well, did you do it? Like, if you did the thing, then we're good. But a good practice that I give people that are in the first camp, which is the people that I'm assuming are listening to this podcast and that listen to mine, they're not trying to just like pull things out of thin air and make money from them. So they probably sincerely are like, maybe they come from a middle class family or a low class family and they're around wealth the first time. I always say this quote, which is immersion yields conversion. So it's really difficult to snap your reality into that next level, especially like 10 million plus. And so what I do, a frame of reference that I use is right now, our business is almost at 2 million. And so I'm like, what would the $10 million version of me do? All right. And so what I do as a frame of reference is I go look and I go surround myself with people that are at $10 million and plus. And I watch what they do. This is very important. What do they do? Not what they say. What does their routine look like? How are they dressing? How are they eating? How are they going to the gym? How are they leading a team? What does their team look like? What's their schedule look like? What's their executive assistant look like? How do they send emails? And what I do is I just take the same actions, the same team, the same style, I just bring that into my reality today, present day. And that's why I'm able to hang out with people that are at that level, not because of some like guru mind trick, but just because I'm like, okay, so I know what people at that level do. I do those things. Therefore, the only delta between where I'm at today and there is time.
Time, yeah.
And so the imposter syndrome is gone.
Man, I love that. What do you feel like when you're in a room full of, people that are worth 10 million or they're doing 10 million a year in revenue? What do you feel like are some of the biggest things that you've learned from getting around those people that if, maybe people that have never been around them would never pick up on?
Yeah, they do daily what other people do occasionally.
How do you mean by that? Explain on that.
Yeah, so people that are like the multimillionaire investors that you so aspire to become do daily what other people do occasionally. So they're not extraordinary. They just do the ordinary extra. And that's what I love. Yeah. So it's just like, they're not smarter than you. They're not better than you. They just like, John will just make 1,000 cold calls and send 10,000 mailers in a month where you're sending 75. Yep. And he just does that for a decade.
Yeah.
And that's how you get your wealth. That's all these people. And I think that's the facade. Once you start meeting these people, you're like, I'm as smart as you. And it's just like, they just have this confidence that comes from the reps. So that's another thing is that all the people that I have spoken with, I've interviewed over 600 millionaires on my podcast too. So I've gotten, most of the people I speak with today are millionaires, which is insane to think about, even in my phone. So to go from knowing nobody that was a millionaire to everybody that's a millionaire, and I live in Austin, Texas with millionaires, it was pretty crazy. But they always start with this confidence that they can figure things out. Not that they're the best, but they're like, I could figure this out. Yeah. And for the most part, if we're talking about real estate, we're talking about business on these podcasts. We're not talking about creating SpaceX. We're doing things that millions of people have done before.
Yeah.
So it's just like, just follow the freaking playbook, put your head down and do what's required. Bust through the brick wall. Like, don't go around the brick wall. And then just ask people that have also bust through the brick wall, how did you do it? And instead of using a freaking kitchen knife, use a sledgehammer. That's where strategy comes into play. That's the only difference is you're just as good as they are. You're just focused on the wrong strategy.
Man, I love that. And talking about building the Action Academy to where it's at. Obviously, you've had some mentors and you've had some people that were ahead of you that maybe gave you some good ideas. You got a lot of feedback from clients, but getting to $1 million isn't easy, right? Getting to 2 million is equally as, maybe a little easier. But what are some of the things that you did to start to scale that business as far as like marketing plays, hiring sales out? Like what did that look like as you kind of climbed to the top?
Yeah, so in the very beginning, all you're doing is you're validating your offer. So for us, like, I think it's cute when people are like, and I'm so glad we did things the way that we did them. And that's the advice that I got from everybody from the startup world to building crazy real estate companies, to building and buying giant businesses. It all goes the same way. And I don't think this is something that you can escape. So I don't think that you should just pop out of nowhere and come up with an $8,000 or $10,000 a year thing. I think that's ridiculous. Yeah. If I would have started Action Academy and charged $8,000 for it just to be like, I'm a premium product, I'm a premium provider, that would be bullshit. We didn't deserve that yet. We started at $1,500 a lifetime. Then we went to $2,000 a year. Then we went to $2,500 a year. Then we went to $4,000 a year. Then $5,000. Then $6,000. Then $7,000. We just get better and better and better and better. So in the very beginning, you're validating your offer. So we're figuring out who do we actually serve and what problem are we helping them with. So that's what we did the first year. It took us an entire year. We call it Action Academy 1.0. What is our culture? Like, what do we stand for? What do we stand against? Who do we serve and who do we not serve? So this year, the first year, we had like 50% churn because we're like, oh, these people that joined in the very beginning, maybe we're not actually for you. And that's okay. Like, that's learning. And so that's first year is just establishing what is your core offer, who are you helping, and with what. And like, also most importantly, who do you not help? So we don't help 95% of people. You know, if you're trying to buy your first house, we're not the thing for it. You don't need anybody to buy your first house. Go buy the house. Like, we're for the person that's making $10,000 to $30,000 a month. They got a few houses. They've saved up their money. They did what I did. They buy a house a year. And now they're like, hold on a second. This is $200 a month. I need $20,000 a month. I want to do this in 2 years. How do I do it? Like, there you go. That's my person. So they have action. They have a record of excellence. They have disposable capital. They have a record of high performance, and they have a timeline. They have urgency. I was like, sick. Now let's get to work. So now year 2 has been about team. This has been very difficult for me because in the very beginning, you're the entrepreneur and you're like, I'm the best at everything. First year I did 1,000 sales calls myself. And you and I were speaking. I go to Europe every single summer and people don't think that I'm working, but like, dude, like I was working my tail off when I was in Europe. It's just different time zones. I'm just working till like 3 a.m. because of the time difference. So my normal work day would be like between like noon to 3 a.m. and while I'm in Europe. And the first year of the business, I was just like, holy crap. Like, you know, this is a lot because your sales, your marketing, your fulfillment, your everything.
Yeah.
And then slowly what we did was, okay, save money, get better, get more leads, service the leads better, raise the price a little bit, get a little bit better, raise the price a little bit, get a little bit better, raise the price a little bit. Now we have a little bit more margin. So how we had to do is we had a bootstrap. So I went and I hired people that were in the community that were already paying members. So we only hire internally from paying members. And so Caitlin came into my life and she worked for me for free for like 2 or 3 months. And then I was like, okay, I think I can pay you. And I started paying her like $2,000 a month. And so she started helping with onboarding and making an onboarding process. And then fast forward into December of last year, going into this year, now it's like I said, we have $400,000 of payroll because now we have margin. And now we have an entire team that does everything. So to land the plane, year 1 is establish your offer, like validate your offer, run water through the machine and see what works and what doesn't. Year 2 is about establishing your team. So 0 to 1 million is your offer, product market fit. 1 to 5 million is getting the right people in the right seats and learning how to delegate, elevate, and automate.
Yeah. I want to dive into getting the right people in the right seats because it's everyone, it is, so it's hard. Not easy. And it is something that you get better at over time is identifying those people, right? You put somebody in, they're not the right person and you learn. So I want to dive into that. But man, I think one of the things we completely overlooked is Brian said something earlier about making the one thing and saying no to everything else. Right. And so can you walk us through to get that many reps, to get people in to where they even respect you enough to do a free coaching call? Because a lot of you could be like, hey, post on your Facebook, hey guys, I'm doing a free coaching call. And nobody wants to talk to you. They're like, what are you going to coach me on? So tell me how you focused on your one thing at the beginning, like what that was. And dude, let's just call it what it is. You have over what, 200, I know it's over 250, right? Or right around there on Instagram.
We're coming up on like 400,000 or 500,000 social followers now. Yeah.
Podcast. He's got a huge podcast. He's got like 240, 250 on Instagram, something like that.
Like 277. Who's counting?
Okay. So like, there it is. So I just didn't check it last week. And so it went up 27,000 since last week. So like, he's growing really fast. I remember you were at like 20K when we met and I was like, holy shit, he's got 20,000 like organic real followers that are actually looking for the thing that he's doing. You know, like it's not, there are people that are trying to travel the world. They're trying to start businesses or buy businesses, get into commercial real estate. Man, how did you do that? It's easier said than done, but how did you scale the podcast and scale your social following to set your, basically like you just fueled up your jet to where when you do launch something, you get feedback really quick.
Yeah, overnight success, 10 years in the making, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's just reps. So, I mean, I can say the process and the work that can't be avoided, and then I can say like ways to do it more efficiently and more sophisticated. So, I just talked about what I was doing for a year, and on the podcast, like I started making the podcast back in October 2021, Action Academy podcast, which by the way, if you guys are still listening to this, you would dig my show. We do an episode Monday through Friday.
100%.
For almost 3 years now. So we just crossed 1 million downloads while I was in France. That was really sick. So that was a super big milestone for me. Oh, that's a whole other sidebar. When you accomplish like the biggest goals that you're working on, nobody cares. So, and that's okay. So it's just like, don't be like, I was like, oh my God, everybody, I did it. Like I hit the 1,000,000th download. And then everyone's like, dude, we could literally not care less. I was like, okay. I was like, I'll just keep going then. So people, no matter what you're accomplishing, like even like the birth of your child, people are like, oh, sick, John. And they're like, okay, back to me.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
Okay. So I just documented it for a year. So the best advice I can give is the longer that you delay your ask, the bigger the ask can be. So I first heard from Gary Vee, but Hormozy also coined a phrase around it. But it was really Gary Vee, it's like jab, jab, right hook. So it's like give, give, give. The more that you give, the more that you can ask for later on. So right now I've got thousands of people that would give me millions of dollars of capital. And I've never raised capital. And I keep delaying the capital because I know that when I do raise capital, the longer I wait, then the more people are going to be like, yo, okay, for the love of God, like, let's do this thing. And so that's what we're going to be doing in the future. But that was me with the podcast, dude. I was just doing shows, providing value every single day without any expectation of return, making videos without any expectation of return. And then people just jived with it. I did it for a year before making trying a business around it. And then the offer was so good that they couldn't say no. So how do you say no to like, yo, like this dude you've been listening to every day? Like, I'll talk to you for 15 minutes, like, just help you, like, with whatever. Like, there was no filter. It's like, here's my calendar, like, book me up. And that's what I did every day. It's just like talk to people. And so it's like, if you just do that, and bonus points if you're authentic, like the more authentic that you are and the more that you share your losses, the faster people will know, like, and trust you. So don't just share the highlights.
Yeah, that is one of the things that I really like about your content is that you will go through like, hey, I've been really struggling the last couple of weeks. Business is getting a little bit more stressful. It's so easy to see, like, you guys know if someone's authentic and if someone's program is going to be legit by them sharing their losses, because there's a lot of people out there that act like they never lose, right? They just sit there and talk about, they show pictures of their cars, they show pictures of their vacations, and then they never talk about their losses. And I mean, some of you broke by that shit because you're like, oh, this guy never loses, right? But I promise you they do. Like, they have had losses, they've had lessons that they've had to learn, everyone, right? So I love that you share it. Now, one of the things that he left out that just talks to the consistency play is Brian's like, yeah, I did a podcast for a year. I did a podcast every day. It was like every single day for a year. He would go find a guest. And I, as somebody that has a podcast, I know how difficult that is to even like, gosh, I got to go find somebody that's interesting this week to talk to. There's not that many, at first it's hard to find interesting people, right? And so every single day he did that. Every single day, no matter what the post was, he would post. And it just shows like a lot of people, I get people that come into the coaching group and they're like, yeah, I wanted to get into wholesaling. It's like, okay, cool. Tell me, like, walk me through what you did. Well, dude, I tried cold calling for like 3 weeks and I got nothing. I didn't close a single deal. It's like, bro, I sat in my room every day for 8 months, sending 500 texts a day before I got my first deal. I ran out of all of my money on my marketing before I got my first deal. It's like, you're just not doing the thing for long enough and you're not sticking with it for long enough. And then once you found success, you didn't just go and go, okay, well, that worked. Let me go pivot and do something cool. I know how to scale Action Academy. Let me go buy commercial real estate. You never did that.
Let's
you
continue
continue to say no. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Oh my God, it's the hardest thing, dude. It's the hardest thing. The woman in the red dress never goes away. She just looks better. Yep. So, all right. So let's break that down really quickly. So yeah, as soon as it gets boring, that's when you know it's working.
It's so true.
This is a lesson that I just learned. I was like, dude, I don't want to make another real estate podcast. I told my team, I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to talk about business. That's all I want to talk about. It's business. But then I was just like, wait a second. Let's sit with that. What parts of my business are boring right now? Posting the content, making the podcast. Because like this last year, because I have a team now that does sales, that does marketing, that helps me. We still spend $0 in marketing, by the way. But I've got a team that like is like helping me like, oh, yo, have you thought about this idea? So we do have that. So I can't say like $0 in marketing, but in marketing spend, we don't do any paid ads.
No ads,
And so I did no podcast for 2 months, and I had it all like queued up in advance. And so I got to think about it. I was like, I'm sick of this, dude. I was like, no, that's how I know it's working. So what people do is they're addicted to chaos. And when you're addicted to chaos and you're addicted to solving big old problems, like you never can scale, you're just going to keep starting fires and putting out fires that you started over and over again with each new business. And it's just going to be a bunch of maybe $1 million things, but you're never going to build the 20 to 50 to $100 million thing that you just one thing that you focused on. So for me, I have to just keep doing the boring stuff. Once it's boring is when you know it's working. And so as I'm scaling it, I'm like, okay, I have to do the way that I'm able to say no to things is through a cost benefit analysis. So I say, okay, cool. So we're at about $2 million a year. I was like, all right. So we have a predictable path. I know this video game. I know the dragons that I have to slay to beat this level of the video game. I just need to double my lead flow. If I double my lead flow, I get $5 million next year and $2 million of that in profit. And that's after paying myself salary and owner distributions. That's just net in the bank account. I'm like, all right. Or I could go buy this hotel, or I could go buy these other businesses. But wait, John, I'm going to get an operating partner. I'm going to be passive, man. I'm just going to be the capital and somebody else is going to be the boots on the ground. Bullshit. All right. It works in practice. It works in theory. And yes, you can be the capital partner of a business, of a large commercial real estate deal. But the only time that you're purely passive is if you're an LP. If you're an LP, you're going to give them the money, you're going to shut up, and you're going to make maybe your 12% cash on cash. But that's not going to change your life. For me to invest in a hotel or for me to buy another business, if I'm owning 40% of that business, there's no way in hell that I'm going to be a passive partner, because the person that's going to operate it, they're going to be like, okay, like let's have some input here. So for me, I'm like, okay, I can't even buy my way into this profit easier than it would be for me to just focus on the one singular issue of, how do we just go from 70 calls a month from people that want to do Action Academy to 140 people that want to do Action Academy? And I'll make $5 million. And people, the coolest part is, they'll all make more than that.
100%.
Dude, so if you think about it logically, that's how you do it. Like the problems that are worth 10 times more than the problems that you don't. And every other business and every other piece of real estate that you're trying to do has problems. There's no way that's easier than doing what you're doing today.
Man, it's so good. And I feel like I've learned this lesson more so than you, because I haven't stayed as focused as you. Like where I've gone in and I bought the hotel, right? And I was like, oh, it's like no business. And what Brian just said struck a chord. The problems that are worth 10 times more than the problems that you don't, right? And so like I've done this where I've gotten to businesses that I have no business in buying. I don't know how the business is run. I don't even know what I don't know, right? And so I'm like complete incompetence here going into this business and thinking, okay, like I can just figure it out, which there's a time and place for that where you have to figure it out, right? But it's like, is it worth it, right? And for me, like what I learned, it's like, I just basically bought myself another job. I just bought in. Correct. To an entire another job. And I ended up just selling my part of the hotel, just selling it back. Like, dude, I do not want to focus on this, because if I just do the same boring shit that has gotten me to $1 million a year, which is training appointment setters to book appointments, and we just do it every single day. Am I bored of it? Hell yeah, I'm bored of it. Like, do I get bored of just training my setters, training my sales team every single day? Like, yeah, sometimes I get bored of it, but you do it anyway because that's what's creating the result. So what you did is you found that one thing. What I love is you got a lot of clarity right at the beginning, because if you don't do that, you might find yourself investing in something that you want to change later. So it is important to get that clarity. And that's what Brian does when you go into his program. So he's like, hey man, let's figure out what you're looking to do. Are you looking to replace $10,000 a month and that's it? And you want to just go spend the rest of the time with your family and your kids? Cool. Let's do that. Or are you trying to make $100 million a year, right? And you don't really care if you work 60 hours a week. You just want to get there. Like either one is okay. Figure out which one you want to do. And then once you do that, stay consistent because you've spent time on the front end actually creating a plan. And I love Layla's been posting this thing. Your feelings, follow your plan, right? She's been posting that consistently.
Layla Hormozy is the backbone of the Hormozy operation. I met her and I met Alex and even Alex is like, I can't do anything without Layla. Like Layla's the crap, man. Like she does it.
And that line's good because a lot of times you don't feel like doing the things that you need to do inside your business, but it doesn't matter. Those are the things that are producing the result. And that's what's allowed you to scale. So really appreciate you touching on it. Did you have something to add on that?
Dude, you just got to learn to love the game. You got to learn to love the game, man, because at the end of the day, it's just like the two ways that, and this applies to all businesses. If you're buying short-term rentals and you're like continuing to buy short-term rentals, or even if you're scaling into hospitality, I'd still say that's the same vertical. But if you're doing multifamily, if you're doing self-storage, like you could be a millionaire in all these different ways. But the two ways that I've done that work for me the best to keep me on track when things get boring is number one, is I make sure to remind myself where I was 3 years ago. I'm like, okay, today, John, is a Wednesday. And as we're recording this on a Wednesday in the middle of the day, I was at the pool earlier today at my apartment complex that overlooks the skyline of Austin, Texas. And I could lay out there all day if I wanted to. I'm not going to because I work and I want to. But like, dude, I used to be driving around selling uniforms to like industrial parks, door knocking on warehouse doors, like all day, sweating. And so I was just like, I remember what that's like. And also what you do is you celebrate your customers and you celebrate like the people that you're helping, because hopefully you're doing a business that helps people. So what we do is I'm like, all right, like Caitlin, send me 10 people that are crushing it. And then I can see, because she's in the weeds of it. She's my Layla. And then so she sends me like the win. She's like, this person just got under contract on a 200 pad self-storage facility. This person just closed a small business. This person, it just got a partnership. They're doing a private equity thing. They just put an offer in on a $6 million HVAC conglomerate. Like, I'm like, sick.
Yeah.
Like now it's not so boring anymore. Now you're like, I remember why I'm doing this.
And you could celebrate the same thing with your employees too, right? Like when your employees hit the milestones, it's so important to celebrate them. I know like for me, one of my goals, it lit me up more than us making a shitload of money is, okay, cool. Everybody in the company made six figures. Right? Like every W2 employee in the company made six figures. For me, it's like, you know, I've got one guy who's buying his first house, right? Just off of the income. It's like, those are the things you find, the things that motivate you, because a lot of us, Brian hit it right on the head where he talked about, you know, a lot of our business owners, type A people, were addicted to chaos. And so it's easy to go, okay, everything feels like it's going well. This isn't normal.
What's going to happen?
I need to go change something, right? And then we do, and then we mess a bunch of stuff up. But like, look at where you were 3 years ago. Look at where you are now, and go find the wins of the people that you were helping. That's such a good topic that I've never heard from anybody on, like, how do you stay focused when things are hard, right? Dude, how do you stay focused when you're bored?
John, even better. How do you stay winning and happy when things are good?
Oof. Man, that's so true.
So Matthew McConaughey, like, this is the only answer I've gotten to this. He's like, when you're running downhill, keep running. So it's like you and me and anybody that's a high performer on here, when things are going right, we get nervous. I'm looking around my shoulder and I stop running. If I'm running downhill, I'm like, how is this easy? We're making millions of dollars. Everybody's happy. Then I'm like, wait a second. I start jogging. I'm like, all right, hold on a second. Like,
what's going on?
Who's coming to tackle me? Like, am I unpunked? Like, what's going on? And then McConaughey is just like, dude, he's like, he would do the same thing. He'd be doing hit after hit after hit movies. And he was just like, all right, what's going to happen? Like, this is too easy. I thought this was supposed to be hard. And he's like, dude, if you're looking for hard, you're going to find it prematurely. So if you're running downhill, keep freaking running, because the uphill is going to come eventually. Yeah. So just enjoy the run while you're running downhill, dude. And so I'm like, hell yeah. There's a lot of people that were investing in multifamily that are like, for the last 10 years, they're like, I'm running downhill, brother. And now those are the people that are sitting all right now. You know? So it's just like, run downhill. Right now, I think community is running downhill. I think it's an outsized asymmetric opportunity. I think online courses are going to phase out over the next 5 to 10 years, and people are all going to pivot to who has the best community with the best customer service and the best people. And I'm like, everyone else, I won't name names, but like we know them. It's like, oh, I've got a biz buying community. We got 10,000 people in here. Or we got a creative finance community that's got 50,000 people in there. It's just like, all right, it's like, that's not your main thing. You're doing 100 things and that's one of them. Yeah. I'm like, I'll take the guy that's just like, okay, cool. Like, this is the only thing I do right now. It's making sure this is perfect for you guys. And so that's just, I'm doing better at running downhill than I used to be. But this time last year, I was a walking ball of anxiety and nerves while I was winning, which sucks.
Yeah. Man, I've never heard anyone talk about that, but I love that we're diving into the psychology around running a business, because like I have to go to coaching personally because I will get in my own head and I will do that exact same thing. If I'm winning, I'll start looking for problems, right? And you'll make them in your relationship. You're like, and then I'll find them. 100%.
You'll find them.
Or it bleeds over somewhere else, like you said. Something always ends up happening because you're like, it shouldn't. At the beginning, yes, it's hard. There's a lot of friction. But if you feel like it always needs to be friction all the time and there's no friction and the car starts rolling a little bit and you get some momentum and then you feel like, oh shit, I got to go create friction, and you don't do it consciously. It's not something
you self-sabotage unconsciously.
Yeah, you never wrote down in your journal today I'm going to go destroy my business and I'm going to, I'm going to create a lot of chaos and ruin everything. Correct. It's these things that you just start doing inside. And if you can stay focused and you can use these tips that Brian's giving you because they're so important, and this really comes into play. I mean, for me personally, like at the $1 million a year scale, right? When you're right there.
That is imposter syndrome a little bit. You're like, ooh, wait a second.
Yeah, 100%. It's so good, man. And so I love that we talked about the psychology. Now let's talk about bringing on good talent, right? Because getting to $1 million, you can do $1 million by yourself, right? I've got dudes in my group doing $1 million with them and some VAs, right? I've been able to get to $100K a month, me and some VAs. But in order to scale past that, I mean, unless you're selling a $1 million product and you deliver on that for the year and then you want to double down, most of the time you're going to start having to get some good talent. And so, one, you've got a great recruiting platform because you have your community that you can recruit out of. And what else are you doing?
It's almost like it's a plan.
It's almost like you planned it out. And another company that does that really well, Seventh Level, they take the best salespeople that come through their program. They're like, hey, you're really good at sales, but you're selling water filtration services. How would you like to come sell sales training and then make, $100K a month instead of making, 40? So like, I've always really loved that business model, but finding leadership. You've got a girl who's running your community, who's been with you for years. Mm-hmm. What are you looking for in those leaders that you're bringing on to help scale your business now?
Yeah, so this is something that I'm new at. So I'm very green on this. It's a cool, so there's $1 million skill sets and there's $10 million skill sets and there's $1 billion skill sets. And when you zoom business out, truly when you zoom business out as a CEO, or if you want to start your own thing, all businesses taken to the max are all the same when you think about it. Doesn't matter if you're selling and installing garage doors or doing HVAC, or if you're doing it in a community. All businesses, or if you're a bank, it's all going to come to the end of the same thing. At its extreme, it's going to be, okay, I am meeting with people on my team. The people that you meet with on your team change. Maybe you're not meeting with a sales rep. Maybe you're meeting with your sales manager. Then you meet with the sales director. Then Jeff Bezos, in his 24 hours he has in a day, he's doing meetings with his top people.
Yep.
So it doesn't go away. So hiring, attracting talent and managing talent is the game. Those are the most best invested skill sets that you can have as a human. So that's what I'm actively working on right now. And so I thought that was just cool to share, to zoom out and you're like, oh, okay. So a CEO has 3 jobs. So your 3 jobs are to set the vision and direction of the company, attract and retain top talent, and make sure you don't run out of cash. That's it.
Yep.
I used to be consumed with, okay, I'm the CEO of Action Academy and now I just delegated everything away. What do I do now? I'm what do I do? And then, so now I went down this path. I was like, okay, cool. This is what I do. I attract and retain top talent. I set the vision of the company and I make sure we don't run out of cash. So you create the financial models.
And he didn't start there, right, guys?
Yeah, he didn't start there. So the first, and I'll say one more thing and then we'll go backwards a little bit. So the framework that I follow is from my friend Ben Kinney. And because once you start making a lot of money, money doesn't really matter. And so you have to play a game. So the framework is first you make $1 million, then you net $1 million, then you pay your team $1 million, and then you give $1 million away a year. So like that's the game. So this year we made $1 million, next year we'll net $1 million, and then the following year we'll pay our team $1 million, and then the year after that I want to be able to personally comfortably give away $1 million a year. So what you start with is you have to create a vision for the company that's large enough to fit in the vision of a rock star. So people are like, how do I attract rock stars? First thing you gotta do is look in the mirror. Are you a rock star? You're probably not. But if you are, then it's easier. Like a rock star is not gonna be like, how do I attract rock stars? Like a rock star is just like, dude, everyone around me, like, what are you talking about? Like the best people always gravitate towards me. Like, duh. So you have to have a vision big enough to like, people want to help with that. So you got to make sure that you're not solving a small problem. Like our problem that we're solving right now isn't like, how do we help people get financially free? No, we are helping 1 million people leave corporate, leave jobs they hate to replace with lives they love. And I'm like, I want to create 1 million entrepreneurs in the next 5 years. So it's just like, and we unlock 1 million entrepreneurs because I think people are born an entrepreneur or you're not. So we unlock them from corporate. So like my team's like, yo, like, that's a juicy problem to solve. So first thing is, if you aren't attracting rock stars, you probably aren't a rock star and your vision isn't big enough. Second thing is, when you do find the rock stars, you'll find them in all different areas. Like even like my growth director, Stephania, she came from my Instagram. I was asking about an executive assistant. She came on as my EA and she just rocked so much right out the gate. I was just immediately like, okay, yeah, you're more than this. So ironically, I'm in the market for another executive assistant because we promoted her. But yeah, so it's just like, you just really start with interviewing them and asking them just purely about them. First interview isn't talking about the company at all. You're just like, yo, like, here's the job posting, like, put all your stuff in your job posting. And then you go to them and you're like, tell me your life story. And then what you're doing is you're trying to bookmark and pull out areas of excellence. Because if they're excellent in their personal life and they're excellent, like, you'll see the patterns. Like, I've always been excellent. You've always been excellent. Like, even when we mess up, like, there's ways that we just become better. And then, so you're just paying attention to that. And then the next one, then you're really like diving into the actual like position and everything. But at this point, they should know like the pay and everything and the expectations. But you're really figuring out like, do you have a track record of excellence? And what's your vision for the future? If you could wave a magic wand, like, what are you trying to accomplish in your life personally? And you make sure that your vision and your business, your company can support that. And if it can't, then you tell them like, hey, like, I don't think that we can do that there. I've got one guy that wants to like build $100 million private equity fund. And I was like, dude, I can't fit that.
Yeah.
He has to go do his own thing. But like Caitlin, she's got 4 kids and she's like, I want to go travel around the world and do world school. I want to take my kids out of school. And I want me and my husband, he's in the military, he's in the army. She's like, when he's out, we want to go travel around the world and like raise our kids around, like take them to Scotland where we're from, like take them to all these other places and teach them about Greek, philosophy while we're in Greece. I'm like, okay, cool. How much is that going to cost? She's like, about $97,000 a year. It's like, I think you're undershooting it. Let's plan for 150 and let's come up with a plan for you to do that next year.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing.
One of the questions somebody asked you on your Instagram post, and I love the answer, so I want to go over it today, is how do you recruit talent when your entire business model is around getting people to leave their jobs? Right? Like, how do you get someone to come work for you? And you're like, everybody gets there to start leaving their job. Can you talk about that? You kind of hit it a little bit, but can you dive into that a little bit more? Yeah,
I've had like 6 people leave their jobs to come work for me. So I'm doing something right.
There you go.
Yeah, dude. No, it's part of the culture. So it's like you have to be really intentional about what business you're building. So you have to make sure everyone likes each other. Everyone's like vibing. And like all of my team, it's a rule in our company that you have to be financially independent outside of the company so that you work for us because you want to, not because you have to. So nobody works for us because they have to pay the bills. Like Mason's our head of acquisition. He's got 93 doors that he just built in the last 15 months through Action Academy. Wow. Caitlin's got $8,000 a month of passive income through midterm rentals in Alaska. And so she does that. Brandon, who runs our ops, I think has like 400 self-storage pads. And then Stephanie has got like 3 companies that she founded that she's running and she's got going passive in the background. And then like the rest of our team, dude, is like, oh, like Ben's got $80 million of assets under management. Tim's got like $16 million in mobile home parks. So everyone's got like their thing. Jordan's got $4.1 million of businesses that he acquired. So everyone's doing their own thing. Like they've got their own thing. So for our team, I'm like, okay, you need to be financially free, like from your stuff. And like, I'm going to pay you so much that it's like, we call it passionate income. So it's like, dude, I'll pay an astronomical amount for my people just so that they can, like want to work for us, and they get fired up about the work that we're doing. And then also they're allowed to like work how they want to work, dude. Like if you want to work from Spain, work from Spain. Like I want you to. Like Caitlin's like, yo, I want to go. I'm feeling down in Alaska. I'm like, what do you want to do? She's like, I've got my friend in Germany. I think we're going to go visit her. I was like, sick, have fun. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so world travel. So in our team, it's mandatory that you keep your investing business outside of Action Academy. And it's mandatory that you travel 90 days a year if you want to.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. If you want to, 'cause some people don't, right?
Some people don't
want to just work.
Like Mason wants to chill with his kid, and he's got another one on the way, and they want to hang out in South Carolina. Sick.
Yeah, I love that you also make a distinction between passive income, because I posted on IG a couple of weeks ago. I was talking about like passive income and the people that are selling passive income. Like, oh, dude, this is all passive income. The reason that they sell that is because it's really easy to sell because everybody wants it. Like everybody loves the idea. Yeah, the idea is easy to sell. It's like everybody wants to not work and make money. Right? Like humans in general are lazy. And so like, yeah, they can prey on lazy people, but you're going the exact opposite, which is like, hey bro, I'm not going to try to sell you on passive income. How can I get
it's harder.
And it is going to be harder to sell people because you're being real with them and you're being transparent, but you're getting them to, hey, I'm not going to sell you on you're going to make $30,000 passively and never have to work and go, sit on the beach for the rest of your life. But how can we replace your corporate job that you don't like with a job that fires you up and a job that, maybe doesn't require you there as much as a W-2 would. Like, and I know for me, I work my ass off. Like I work a lot, but when I go and take a vacation, I went to Cabo last month, I don't need to work. Like I can let my team run my business, and I'm doing it because I want to, not because I have to. So there's a difference. Like, is my wholesaling business passive income? Absolutely not. Not even remotely close to passive income. But am I able to live in Colombia? Am I able to go eat lunch and dinner with my girlfriend and spend time with my kid every single day? Yeah, like that's the goal. And although it's harder to sell, it's being transparent with what's realistic to people, and you're not preying
It's passionate income.
And you're not preying on lazy people. Right?
No,
you're actually
dude.
extracting those out of your group. You're getting rid of the lazy people, and you're focusing on how do we build a group full of high achievers that are actually doing big things, knowing that they're probably still going to have to work. Like they're still going to have to do the things, but we're going to be able to help them build the lives that they want to. So I just wanted to point it out, because if you're listening to this and you're like getting sold into like gator lending or like,
let's do a creative rap.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like this is all passive.
I've got $2,000 in my bank account. Let's creatively wrap this 16 unit. Okay.
And you're never going to have to work again once you do this, right? Like that stuff, like people are selling you. And if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But you're in the right group, or you're even talking to the right salesperson that when they say like, hey, this is going to be tough. Like, I'm not saying this is going to be easy. Like you're going to have to take action. And sounds like that's what you're all about.
Dude, our entire sales pitch is because I did 1,000 of them, right?
Yeah.
So it's like my whole sales pitch was like, yo, like, where are you at? Where you want to be? They're like, all right, I want $10,000 a month of passive income so I can quit my job, travel around the world, build my own business. Got it. Cool. Did 1,000 of those. And then it's like, yo, like, all right, so where are you at? I've got a few houses. Sick. Like normally between 5 and 50 doors is what our people have. And they're normally coming in with like $2,000 to $3,000 of passive income, quote unquote. I'm like, all right, sick. So $7,000 is what we got to make up. They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, how fast do you want to do it? And they're like, all right, like this year or next year. I'm like, all right, sick. So let's spend 2 years on this. It's probably going to take 2 years, not 1 year. I was like, if we do it in 1 year, cool. But let's do 2 years. Let's focus on this. I was like, it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. I was like, but it's going to be worth it. And you're going to build skill sets that are going to like be 8-figure skill sets that are going to transfer for like the rest of your life. So like, and that's the whole other thing is we force people, like we're like a crucible that forces people to become better. Like, I don't want to be boot camp. I want to be special forces training. Like, so when you're around other people that are like, yo, happy Wednesday, MFers, I just closed $18 million self-storage facility, and you just submitted only like 2 offers the last month. You're like, all right, that's where imposter syndrome is good. I'm like, you need to be better. Be better. That's within your control. Good. I'm glad you feel like an imposter. Prove that you deserve to be here.
Yeah.
And that's what's fun.
And the community is, we didn't dive 100% into it, but Brian said that courses are going to be phased out and community is going to rise up. And I 100% agree. And I always think back to when I went through special operations selection in the Marine Corps. I honestly contribute me making it through to eating lunch with the right guys. Right? Because out of 100 people, only 15 were left at the end. And if you look at who was left at the end, it was like one group of guys that ate together, right? There's like onesies and twosies that were just kind of like a little bit of anomalies. But like for the most part, it was like that little group that ate together. They kind of all like, I remember I'd be running and before I started eating lunch with them, I'd be at the back. And then like I started eating lunch with them, like, dude, like I'm going to get roasted at lunch if I don't start running towards the front of the pack because that's where they all are. And I don't want to get roasted. So I just ran harder. I ran as hard as I could because I identified with the people that were doing well. I didn't want to identify with the back of the pack, and that was just dumb luck. But I've taken that and looked at that in every other aspect. And if you get around a community where everyone's doing big things, you're going to run faster. You're going to run harder. You're going to run as hard as you can to get to their point. And then maybe you get to their point and you level up, you kind of like level off until you get into a bigger community, right? And that's the game, getting into bigger and bigger communities until you get to, one day you look back and you're like, holy shit, look what I just did. So I love the community model, and I love seeing, I told you right before this, like I was just talking to some of the guys in the Action Academy and seeing what they're doing. They have so many cool guys doing cool things, guys and girls doing like really big things.
Yeah, dude, we're 25% female. Like we didn't even plan for that. I was like, that's sick, dude. We got Tulum awesome. Coming up in 2 weeks. We got 106 members coming, and like I think we have 20 of them are female, and we got like 30 spouses coming of some of the guys. Man. So it's like, dude, that's sick.
Yeah, this really cool. It's not Hustlers Academy where it's a bunch of 20-year-olds. These are like, if you look inside the Action Academy, there's guys that they have kids, they have a family. Like it's people that want to run businesses so they can spend time with their families, spend time traveling, and that's really like business can be hard at times, but it does allow you to do those things. And I really like just going back to what we were talking about in the middle of the conversation about hey, when things are going well, right? Look at where you are compared to where you were last year. And man, we got a lot out of this. I think we could talk about this for another like hour or two, but to not go into like a bunch of other rabbit holes, man, if people want to join the Action Academy, how do they go about doing that? Like, how do they reach out to you?
Yeah, man. I say go listen to the podcast. So Action Academy podcast, like that's what our main thing is. Like that's where all of our lead flow is because people listen to 2 or 3 episodes and they're like, yep, okay, this is good. Like this is everything I need. Because we just post everything. Like if we do a cool call within the group for like paid members, we'll just post it for free. They're like, okay, this is sick. Yeah, let's do this. Cool. And so people listen to the show, 2-3 episodes is the average, and then they hop in. It's actionacademy.com. But I recommend listening to the podcast for a few episodes first to see if you jive, and then you'll find out really, really quick. And then we'll speak to you like real talk on the phone, and 50% of the people we say no to. So, I mean, yeah, if you make it through, then sick. We just are looking for people that aren't dicks, that are like really, really cool, that are go-getters. We call them sprinters. People that move 1,000 miles an hour and they're looking around and they get irritated at people moving slow next to them. Like that's who thrives in our group. But if you're always like, I'm getting beaten, other people are faster than me, and you're not doing anything about it, like, dude, you're going to get chewed up and spit out in our squad. So don't do it.
No losers, guys. If you're a loser and you're listening to this, which you shouldn't be, get the f*** out. Don't go call Brian. But if you're a winner, and if you want to replace your income, man, I do think it's the best opportunity for people right now because you're not teaching like start some side hustle that's going to take like 4 or 5 years. There's guys that are going in there and they're replacing it really quickly. So I love that. Where else can people learn more about you?
Just Brian Luebben, just my Instagram. And we've got books and everything. I've got a book that I wrote and everything from passive to passionate. But that's all on my Instagram. You can see it all there.
If you guys want to get a lot of FOMO, go follow Brian on Instagram. He's in a new country every single week. And so get the FOMO. But now you guys know the real deal, that he's out there grinding while he's out in those other countries. So I love it, man. Sir. Dude, Brian, this has been awesome. It's been good catching up with you as always. You got to make another trip to Colombia. But for now, this is going to be the Zeroed In podcast. Signing off. Thank you, guys.
Peace.
Thanks, Brian.